What's up YouTube, it's Chris and I'm back with another video. This video gonna be short. I just want to make a video explaining the differences between renting and owning. A lot of people, especially in real estate groups and investment groups, they are die hard, you gotta own and you're a loser if you're renting type of mentality. But that's not always the case, man. It kind of bothers me when people who I think if you're going to be an investor or if you're going to open your mouth up and try to give advice, you should have at least at some point been a financial planner, because you'll learn, or at least your empathy game needs to be very strong, because you need to understand that everybody is not you. Everybody's situation is different. Alright, so in this video I'm going to go over when renting makes sense. And there's not a whole lot. I'm overall an advocate for owning homes, but sometimes renting just makes sense. Like, first of all, when you are moving to a new area, you move to a new city, move to a new state, I don't care if you've been there before and have spent a month there or whatever, you've been there every summer since you was a child, I don't care. Rent first, because things change. I'll use myself as an example. Me and my family, we after, I was planning to retire from becoming sneaker dad because people was finding out where I was living. I didn't really like the attention that I was getting on the streets, so we wanted to move. When we was like, where could we go? Where it's inexpensive but it's still beautiful, and it's nice. And so we decided Puerto Rico. We don't need to get visas or nothing like that because it's still the United States. And it was just a 3.5 hour flight. So we visited. We stayed there for a month. Oh, we loved it. Then I was going back and forth for like business trips and stuff. I'm like, man, Puerto Rico is it, y'all. We doing it, okay? We get there. I sold my house and I almost bought something. You could get a penthouse condo over there. It's gonna need a little work, but you could get a penthouse over there. This was in 2016 for 30 grand. Okay. Thing is, no one's gonna really tell you why it's 30 grand. It's $30,000 because the HOA is messed up, and when the HOA is messed up, things like paint, trash, water can get cut off. The whole building can foreclose because they're not paying taxes or whatever. It's a whole lot of things that can happen when your HOA is in disarray. And then when it does get reinstituted, the HOA could be a month. It could be $600 a month. So anyway, but I decided not to buy something. I was like, you know what? Let's rent something first just in case. And that was the smartest move I could have made. Rented something, all to find out that visiting Puerto Rico is one thing. Inserting yourself into their infrastructure is another beast. And you get to really see a taste of the island. When people don't think, I don't want to go there, but I'll say that customer service in Puerto Rico is severely lacking. Trust me, you've never seen anything like this before. And the overall quality of homes, they're terrible. All right, people over there feel like you're bougie if you want air conditioning. Well, considering it's 100 degrees every day in the morning and in the night, yeah. Yeah, we have small children too. And I don't care if I didn't have small children. I don't want to be hot like that. Yeah, so it was rough. Landlords there, you might as well forget laws because they don't exist. I mean, they'll lie, they'll paint over mold. I mean, the property we had was mold infested. I should show y'all pictures. Mold infested, rat infested. It was gross. It was terrible. It was a very rough situation. So we ended up finding out that, realizing that the island was just not for us. We went over there, we was going to take advantage of all the tax perks. I already started that process and paid that money, but nah, it wasn't worth it. So, yes, always rent. I can give you another example, and this will be a nice segue into the next reason and next time where renting makes sense. A client of mine, a man named Hendrick. He used to be a famous rally car driver, and we met in Atlanta at a Best Buy talking about music and stuff. So I ended up representing him and managing his money and his businesses and stuff like that. He was a venture capitalist at this point. He's old. He was like 72 when I met him. And he was renting a 2-bedroom apartment in Midtown Atlanta. And he owned a house in Brazil. He didn't want to have the house there. He owned 2 houses in Brazil. He was trying to sell them. But he explained to me how he won't buy houses anymore unless they real cheap, like $100,000, $200,000, you know, and there for him, because he had millions of dollars in the bank. And you know, in a nice quiet place. But he just told me, like, everywhere I go right now I rent because, you know, I'm old. I don't want to deal with maintenance. I don't want to deal with, you know, I don't want to deal with none of that. I want someone else, that to be someone else's problem. I just want to live and enjoy myself and travel and relax, you know. And he was telling me, you know, he was like, I bought a penthouse, or wasn't quite a penthouse, but a real nice condo in Miami, in one of those buildings where it's like a panoramic view. You own like the whole floor, or like a whole side, so you can see, you know, all around you. And he said it was one of the worst places he lived because there's a man above him that had a cane or something, and when he walked, it just boom, 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 made a whole bunch of noise. He was like, and I bought the thing, and I was terrible. It's like after that, I decided I would rent first to make sure I wanted to stay in a place, and that's what he did. He rented Atlanta, decided he hated Atlanta after 6 months, then he moved, and I think he's back in Brazil now. He goes back and forth from Brazil to Amsterdam and, you know, other little places, but when you're older and you don't have dependents, like Hendrik doesn't have kids, he has no one to leave his millions to. So it doesn't make sense for him to own property. I mean, if he bought a house now, he ain't going to, like, I mean, Hendrik is on his way out. He's 79, 80 years old now. So he's on his way out. So it doesn't make sense for him to buy a property just to sit there and maintain it, to build equity, because he's going to build equity for what? Now, and here's the other thing. He's so rich, he doesn't finance anything. He just buys stuff cash. But why have that property with all that equity paid off? Who's he going to leave it to? It's just going to end up going to the state or something. So it doesn't make sense for him to spend all that money doing that. And that's another instance where renting makes sense. And I'll give you one more thing, a reason that I can think of where renting makes sense. Let me see. I have 1, 2, 3 things. The other reason why you might want to rent is because your kid goes to school for sports or something, or to a performing arts school, all right, and you have to live nearby so that they can, you know, that could be their neighborhood school. It makes sense to rent then, because you know you're only there for, you know, a certain amount of time, for a few years while your kid is in school, and then after that you can move. Now, yes, in areas that have really nice schools, the property values are going to be high. And you might be thinking, well, wouldn't you want to buy something there to appreciate, for appreciation? Well, sure, if you could find it a good deal, but if it's that expensive, you might not be able to afford it. And it doesn't make sense to buy something at the top of the market if you can't find a deal, or you know, and even if you found a deal, let's say it was not a seller's market. Okay, let's go with both examples. If it's a seller's market, you're going to pay top dollar for it, and that's not smart, because you will have a hard time trying to sell it in a few years. If it's a seller's market, eventually it's going to become a buyer's market again, and the value will either stay the same or go down. Let us say it's a buyer's market. It could be a little more tempting to buy because you could find a good deal. You can get a house cheaper, and it could appreciate. But the problem with that is, one, you still might not be able to afford it, and you're speculating. How do you know it's going to be worth more later on? And how do you know, if it's still a buyer's market, it might not sell fast? See, you got to keep that in mind. If it's a buyer's market and you're trying to sell a house, you're not going to get top dollar for it, right? So those are kind of things. And if you find a good deal in either market, a real good deal is going to probably need work. You got to rehab it, and you focus on getting your kid through school. So that's another instance where you might want to just rent something, and then after they go away to school, to college or whatever, and you're more stable and that's off your mind, off your plate, then you could buy something. And then you might realize then also you don't need all the extra space because your kids are gone. So then you can go back and buy something more suitable for you, and pay a lot less then. So those are the times when running makes sense. Hopefully this video was helpful, and I will see you guys next time.
Please allow me to introduce myself.